If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Gloved Fist. My name is Frank Latirzo, former writer, full-time, mostly observer, joined by former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, Jack Hirsch. Jack, how are you tonight? Coming from Madison Square Garden. Is that what it looks like? Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. I can't.
We keep hearing Madison Square Garden's the mecca of boxing, but come on. I mean, how many big fights at the Garden? I mean, we get them from time to time still, but I guess the richest history of any boxing arena in the world would still be Madison Square Garden because of the quantity of big fights in the past. This weekend, Frank, okay? Jay Apatia, I meant to talk a little about him. I saw the replay of him beating Glanton in the cruiserweight bout today. But the tug of war that's going on in boxing now, the soap opera effect, I'm more interested in that than most of the fights. And what's going on now between Dana White, Eddie Hearn, back and forth, the whole power struggles, you kind of wonder where it's all going to wind up.
If you had to bet, who would you bet on?
I'd bet on Eddie Hearn, believe it or not. Because
really?
As successful as Dana White has been in boxing, okay? And in UFC, excuse me. For him to win this, he's going to have to lose a fortune of money initially, like offering the ridiculous amount, like he did $15 million for Conor Benn for fight. Ridiculous amount, okay? And in the meantime, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom have a big enough company. They can hit back. You know how they hit back? Sign UFC fighters. What's going to stop Eddie Hearn from
Well, he just signed that Tom Aspinall. What's he going to do with him, Jack? Is he going to box now?
No, well, it's going to be part of his talent agency. And according to Eddie Hearn, and I believe it, UFC guys are so underpaid that they're calling Hearn up. Did you see today, I saw just before we came on, John Jones, and I'm not a UFC fan, nothing against the UFC. I think the UFC is great. This is just me not being a fan, no particular reason. It's just the way it is. But he's mad at Dana White. He supposedly temporarily retired, but then quickly said he was still coming back. He's being lowballed in his office, and the UFC guys get paid ridiculously.
But Jack, John Jones is a little bit of a wacko, and he gets hurt. He pulls out of fights. He fails drug tests. Dana White's not the type guy that will tolerate that, no matter how big of a star he is. And I happen to agree with Mr. Bergman. I will bet on Dana White because, Jack, I believe he's a more forward-thinking guy. That's what the sport of boxing needs. I think he can relate to fighters better than Eddie Hearn can. And I believe he can outwork them too. And I think he has subordinates under him that are helping him. I will bet on Dana White to come out in that battle.
Dana White can only win this battle if Dana White is willing to initially lose a fortune of money. If
he has a fortune to lose.
Okay, but people with a fortune don't like losing a fortune. Compare it to owners in other sports, okay? They're not going to just throw filthy money at every free agent.
But Jack, if it's an investment to get bigger down the road in forward thinking, then it's really not throwing money away.
But it is. But there's the other element involved too, Frank. And we're living in a different era. Like you and I discussed on the phone, even you and I are changing the way we are going to talk about things a little bit. We're going to try to adjust to this era, even though it's not the era we came up in. That's pure boxing. The sanctioning bodies, as much as we may have despised them in the past, They mean a lot to these fighters.
They have a
is
place, Jack.
torn, but Opatia's torn. The IBF stripped him of its title. And you want to know why they stripped him of his title? Because he was fighting Opatia for the Zuffa boxing belt. Now, Dana White's concept is good. Go back to the traditional 8-weight classes, add in cruiserweight, that's 9. I like that. I like that a lot because these junior classes to me are nonsense. But the sanctioning bodies want to feed. Dana White's looking to get rid of them. So the sanctioning bodies count, okay, you want to get rid of us. You know, we're not going to recognize these fighters as being universal champions. And that's what these fighters came up on. An Opatia's press conference before his fight, they held the Zuffa belt prominently. And I heard the IBF belt was all the way in the corner. And Daryl Peoples, the president of the IBF, he felt the IBF was so disrespected. The supervisor who was on duty at the IBF, he called them to come back home, to leave. We're withdrawing recognition. If that's how you're going to treat the IBF belt, you don't care about it. And then Opatia was later saying, I worked so hard for this belt, I kind of want it. And some of these, and we've run into problems this way with Terrence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson. They don't want to pay the sanctioning fee, yet they want the belt. Now, what's right, what's wrong? You
Crawford didn't do that, Jack, until he retired, though, or was close to retiring and was established as like the guy in the sport. Okay. So he doesn't really need a belt. I don't know how much fans care about the belts. I think all of them mean something if you have all of them, but they're all so fractured today. I could see Dana White overcoming this and at least not getting rid of the sanctioning bodies, but maybe changing the way they think a little bit too.
Yeah, he could to that extent.
Because they've never had competition before, Jack. They've never had that before.
He's underpaying UFC guys by so much compared to boxers. Don't you think the UFC guys are going to revolt? If you're the top UFC guy and you're getting paid $600,000 a fight, is that about what they get paid in the big mega fight, the UFC? And you see him paying boxers $10 million a fight, you're going to wake up and you're going to say, I got my pride. I am not going to fight for that. So what's Dana White going to keep doing? Keep getting new talent all the time at the UFC? You know, you need stability.
Have you noticed, Jack, even that audience, and I have some huge buddies that are huge UFC fans, and even they have had their interest a little bit depleted lately because of some of the shenanigans, the failed drug test. You have to pay for everything. Now, look, it gets more exposure than boxing, but even that has dropped a little bit over the years. It isn't quite what it once was. And what's funny in that sport lately is it's women that pretty much carry that sport now. I mean, with Rousey coming back, Gina Carano coming back, big fights like that, they're going to draw. So I think Dana White's going to be a player. But what do you think about Opatia? Because what I saw was pretty good boxer, nice jab, decent power. He was hitting a blown up light heavyweight, basically. He says he's going to be a heavyweight. And you know what, Jack? We've seen this movie before where guys have been pretty good cruiserweights and have come up to heavyweight and had success. I mean, Usyk, Holyfield, David Haye, we've seen that before. So, and in a talent shallow pool like today's heavyweight division, I know that's said all the time, but in a talent shallow pool like they have today, if he can box and he has a chin, he will make a name and make some money.
Well, he needs a big fight to make a name, and that there will be a big fight out there. Because on May 7th, David Benavidez is fighting Gilberto Ramirez. Ramirez, very good fighter.
Former light heavy.
Benavidez, more likely than not, is going to win that fight. The odds are he will. And David Benavidez, Frank, as you well know, is close to being a major star. He's not a major star yet. He needs that one mega victory to get there. That Canelo would have been the mega victory if he got that fight and took care of business, but that never happened. J.R. Patia, according to Boxing Insiders, know how good he is. And the only way Benavidez gets to the short list of the pound for pound best and is considered a breakout star, he's got to beat someone like Dimitri Bivol or Apatia. And one of them, and I have to believe Apatia would take the fight with Benavidez. He wouldn't.
I think there's no doubt about that. At cruiserweight.
At cruiserweight. And guess what, Frank? Benavidez is no lock to win that fight.
I agree.
Apatia is capable of outboxing him. And if Apatia outboxes him, guess what? Apatia is one of the big names in boxing suddenly if he beats Benavidez.
Jack, I agree with that. And if you think about Benavidez, it's kind of a shame that think of the big fights he missed out on. He never got Canelo, which looking back now, he might have gone off as the favorite. He never, and to date, he has not had a shot at Bivol or Beterbiev. And I would definitely pick him to beat Beterbiev. I don't know if he would beat Bivol today, but maybe at 175. That's a tough fight. But the point is, he's never had that mega fight yet. And he's a burgeoning personality because he throws punches, he hits hard, he talks a pretty good game, he comes to fight, he's aggressive, he's got fast. I mean, everything is there. He just needs that opponent to take him to the next level. Excuse me.
Well, that's with any exceptional fighter. You need the breakout fight. Even though everyone knows who you are, to put you on the map. Now you're a force. Now you're on the short list of the best fighters pound for pound in the world. Are definitely top 10. Shakur Stevenson needed it with Teofimo Lopez. He understood that. I mean, beating Teofimo the way he did now makes Stevenson a star, in the sport. You talk about the best fighters in boxing altogether. Shakur Stevenson's, name comes up now as a result of that, even though we knew how good he was before the Lopez fight. And Opatia needs the same thing. And Benavidez, incredibly.
But Benavidez has been on the cusp, Jack. That's my point. He's been on the cusp and hasn't gotten it. Epatia is going to get it because the heavyweights will fight him. Frank, the big names will fight him.
A guy can be on the cusp a long time. He needs to get over the top as a star. Canelo's never going to fight Benavidez. There was a time where it would have been viable to make the match, but now the weight differences and everything, that ship has sailed.
Oh, Benavidez is clearly the bigger guy.
Yeah. But Benavidez has two potential opponents out there. Bivol and Opatia.
How come you don't mention Beterbiev?
Beterbiev, 40 years old, coming off the loss to Bivol, even though it was a close decision. I don't want to say he's past his best, but I can't imagine him being any better than he was in the Bivol rematch.
Okay, fair point. I'm along the line. I just wondered why you were saying it.
Right, he's not going to beat Opatia. Maybe he'll be very competitive, lose 116, 112, maybe 115, 113, but he's not beating Opatia. The Beterbiev of a few years ago struck fear in everyone. And even now, and listen, Beterbiev would fight Benavidez if they made the fight now. But Benavidez doesn't need Beterbiev. Strangely enough, and this is a contradiction to what I just said, Benavidez might be a little better avoiding Beterbiev, who's a big puncher, who's going to meet him head on, who could actually hurt him, as opposed to Bivol and Opatia, who are really not likely to hurt, Benavidez. They might outbox him, but they're not likely to hurt him.
Okay, I can see that, although I do think that Beterbiev would be at the same peril fighting Benavidez, who gets off much quicker than him. And we have seen Beterbiev down twice, and he's been hurt, but he's 40, he's a little past it, so I could see why. But if they offered him enough money, I think he would go for that. But yeah, the fight, as Joe says, he thinks Benavidez and Bivol will definitely happen. If that fight was signed today, I'd favor Bivol, but I wouldn't bet on him.
Why can't someone put on an extravaganza like this? We're talking about the four guys. We're talking about Opatia, Benavides, Bival, and Beterbiev. Let any two mix and match fight one another and let the winners fight. Put them on the same show, those two fights. Then the
The only
winners
reason why I think
fight
that,
and the losers fight. You rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. You do gold, silver, bronze, and someone who doesn't medal at all.
Jack, the only reason why I think that doesn't happen is because they could get two main events out of that instead of just one. So because you have two main events basically, and they could make two main events out of that. So I think they would go with that.
Frank, I don't know what you're doing now lately with the Zone having a monopoly. It seems on boxing. You can pay and get it. I'm holding out for the time being. It would cost me something with tax close to $600 a year, and you supposedly get their pay-per-view events. There are very few high-profile pay-per-view events. I can't think of any on the horizon. We might not get any this year. As far as that goes, I've been catching replays. I get to sleep at a decent hour. I'm not up way, way late. And I watch it the next day or the day after and get the result like I did with our Apatia's fight. That was yesterday. I watched it this afternoon. I watched the replay. And sometimes, Frank, I'm going to be honest about it. You hear that it's a real boring fight and the rounds are repetitious. You know what happens. I didn't watch the whole fight because I knew what happened. So I watched a few rounds. And it was the same thing over and over and over. Outside of the highlights were low blows landed, believe it or not. Opatia just handed out a boxing lesson.
But Jack, you talk about the Zone, but like it's coming to the point now where we're going to have to get that to see anything anymore because they're basically what HBO used to be. Speaking of which, I told you last week about the HBO channel on Comcast where they play it's boxing all day. Still on 2000 to 2018. And Jack, they're showing Adrian Broner. They're showing everybody on that. I told you last week they did Crawford, Pacquiao, and Mayweather. This week they did Andre Ward, Kovalev, and those fights. So it's just a shame.
Frank, you could get selected fights on YouTube. That's the thing about it, too. I sometimes get in the mood. I don't know why, and I want a particular fight. Like the other day, I don't know why I was in the mood to see Rocky Marciano against Ezra Charles in the first fight. And you're right, watching the pressure that Marciano was putting on at the end of the fight, the relentless pressure. I watched a replay.
Was all 15 rounds of that fight available, Jack?
Not all 15, no.
I didn't think so. I've never seen all 15.
No. And I was watching a little of the Jimmy Ellis Floyd Patterson fight, again.
That's complete.
Dempsey Tunney. To see the first fight, actually. Everyone knows about the long count, the second fight. Just to kind of get a feel, how it happened. I got to tell you another funny story here. Price Taylor's manager, Keith Sullivan's a friend of mine, okay? And I told you I had a grandson born to me 50 years to the day of the Ali Frazier fight of the century. That's phenomenal. He had a daughter born 55 years to the day exactly.
Real? So March 8th?
Talk about karma. Yeah, March 8th, magic date. But you know what it is, Frank?
And that's my dad's birthday.
Yeah, March 8th.
March 8th, yep.
No kidding. Yeah. Magic
yep, he would have been 87 yesterday.
Yeah. Big boxing fan. Yeah, your dad, from what you told me.
Big Joe fan.
Yeah. Well, who wasn't a Joe Frazier fan? Who was a better singer, Ali or Frazier?
Frazier, and Frazier's also a better singer than Larry Holmes.
So, yeah, okay. Yeah, Joe had some criticism for singing. He had that beer commercial where he sang and no one clapped, and then he gave him a
That was a
dirty
light beer
glass,
commercial, yes.
and everyone
Light
used
beer
to,
really knocks me out. Do you remember the night before he fought Ellis? He went on the Ed Sullivan Show and
Oh
sang
yeah, I
Proud
saw
Mary.
that. Yeah, yeah. I saw him perform once in Brooklyn at this place, the Camelot Inn. So it was kind of cool seeing him on stage and all. We were talking during the week, Frank, how on a show like this, we got to make a little adjustment, even though we don't care to. Certain fighters like Ryan Garcia, the young people know him. I prefer to talk about Tommy Hearns, Willie Pep, the fighters we talked about before. But we're living in a different era, and we've got to kind of come aboard. I mean, we could complain the way our buddy Russell Peltz does, the great legendary Philadelphia promoter, about boxing not being the sport that we grew up in. He's right, it's not. It's not coming back to that point.
But nothing is what we grew up in, Jack.
Boxing does not cater to guys like you and I, or even younger hardcore fans. It's not our age so much. It's not our age. Well, maybe it is to an extent, because I can't imagine young hardcore fans the way we were when we were younger. Okay, we would go to the fights, and it would be about the fights. It wouldn't so much be about the personalities. The personalities always entered into it a little bit, the entertainment value. I get it, but it was about the fights.
But Jack, the difference is during our time, and if you remember back in our time, the Dick Youngs and the Dave Andersons and guys of that ilk, they tarnished the sport all the time. And back then they were fighting, but they thought all the fighters sucked back then compared to the old school guys. The difference today is, like you talk about Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia does. I'm mystified why he's such an attraction. I was mystified over Mayweather the same way, but I'll say this: Mayweather at least fought. If Ryan Garcia fought 3 times a year against some good guys, I could see getting more interested in him and following his script. But you just can't blame Ryan Garcia. Tank was another one. He was busy for a while, but he's going to go away probably for a while. Teofimo's probably going to disappear now because he lost and he doesn't want to show his face. I mean, so it's like these guys don't.
Teofimo Lopez has been going all over. He's been around.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Jack, it's like and Ortiz and Boots. I mean, I've said for the last 3 years, Boots could be this era's Terrence Crawford. But it's like he was quick to get to 27 fights. No, he don't fight.
Yeah, but that you're right completely. Boots is waiting on Virgil Ortiz. I mean, Boots hasn't been a busy fighter in general. Boots is looking for his breakout fight. If he fights Ortiz and he wins decisively, Boots becomes a star. Right now,
and he'll be twice as hard to deal with.
But right now he's just another guy who has tremendous talent, a big deal.
Right. That's what we talk about, his upside.
The guy could throw 101 miles an hour. I don't give a darn the guy, a quarterback, has the best arm in the NFL. If you're not accurate, we have to see how good he really is. At bottom line is, Boots Ennis has to deliver. I understand what's going on with Ortiz and Golden Boy and the whole thing. And money does enter into it because according to Ortiz,
he's done with Golden Boy.
He's done with Golden Boy, but a judge, at least temporarily, sided with Golden Boy. And these things could backfire. Sometimes they don't. Terrence Crawford held out a while. It turned out okay for him at the end.
Because he lucked out and had 2 opponents, Jack. That was it, though. If he didn't have 2 big opponents to slay, it wouldn't have turned out so good for him either.
But Andre Ward held out when he had a problem with the Goosens, and it ultimately turned out okay. But Mikey Garcia, his career got wasted. That backfired.
Well, Jack, if you think about it, and I was a huge Mikey Garcia. In fact, like in 2017, 2018, I thought Garcia and Crawford were possibly the 2 most complete fighters in boxing. But Mikey messed up, Jack, because he should have fought Lomachenko when they each had 2 belts at lightweight. But what he did is he made such a terrible decision. He got paid well, and I'm glad for him, but he basically threw his career away when he went up and he fought Spence. There was no way he could win that fight. And it's like, it was just a dumb move. And Jack, think about this. Think about this. You talk about when we were talking the other day. I saw, and I haven't seen it confirmed, but I'm not going to say it's out of the realm, that Manny Pacquiao is guaranteed $150 million to fight Floyd Mayweather. So if Manny's getting 150, Mayweather has to be at least getting 200. Now, don't these guys realize that 2 guys, a 47-year-old and a 49-year-old, can fight and draw that much interest? So there is a market there. There's a hunger there, but you have to fight for it, Jack, because it's not like when we were watching it, because there are so many more options that people have. ESPN changed it because it gave you access to all the other sports. Where back in our day, Jack, what were the big sports? Baseball. Even the NFL really didn't become big time superstar until like maybe the late 70s, early 80s. So you had baseball. I mean, the NBA was kind of an afterthought until Magic and Bird came along. So it's like, but today that's not the case. There's so much more exposure.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing because in the 1970s, for example, baseball was very popular with the Yankees and Mets. The Giants and Jets were popular in New York. The Rangers were popular in New York. The Islanders, yet a Jerry Quarry fight would make it onto the back page. Even the New York Golden Gloves would make it onto the back page of the New York Daily News. And this day and age, it's incredible the thought if newspapers were out, but newspapers really aren't a thing anymore. And
and the internet changed that too, along with ESPN.
You're missing something. You're missing something that you don't want to let go of. And I understand, because I don't want to let go of it either. You want fighters to earn their keep based on merit. You're not against them getting the money. If it's fighters who do things based on merit. If Canelo, before losing to Crawford, had stepped up and fought Benavidez, and they were getting the outrageous sum of money, you would have said, wow, but good luck to them, you would have said.
But Jack, at least I said this about Canelo back from like 2012, 2013 up until this last year when he fought Crawford. He guaranteed you 2 decent fights a year. Is that a lot? No, but it's more than anybody else.
He stopped at the Edgar Berlanga. He was wasting my time. And that was Canelo's red flag, why I dismissed his chances against Crawford. And I gave him a chance, don't get me wrong, but I picked Crawford.
But Jack, he carried the sport for a while. He did give us meaningful fights, and then he made himself a star. So when he fought guys like Berlanga, people would tune in.
I wonder now how much mojo with the public that Canelo has left. He can't right now have an Edgar Berlanga type fight. He's got to fight by his second fight. He has to fight someone who has a serious chance of beating him. He'll be allowed 1 comeback fight. Oh, Canelo's back in the ring to pick his opponent. After that, he's got to take the best possible fights. I don't know what they have planned for Canelo, but he's not going to keep picking his spots. He's going to have to take a risk with someone.
Jack, you say that, okay? But does he really? He's still Canelo. He has an excuse right now to pick a soft touch coming back because he lost somewhat conclusively. He lost conclusively in his last fight. So he's not going to fight a killer. So he's going to want to get his feet wet again. So there he has that fight. And then once he comes back and he looks halfway decent, people will be interested to see him fight somebody decent again.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you now, way in advance, Frank, if his next opponent is Christian Mabelli, okay?
He loses.
I think Mabelli upsets Canelo. I'm going to tell you that way in advance right now. But
I don't think that's a reach.
But you get the feeling with Canelo, like you say about Mayweather, he's smart. he's not going to get fooled into taking someone who he thinks could really beat him. He'll find the right type guy. You have the feeling, but I
And Merrill
also
Reese
think,
just jumped in and agrees with you too.
yeah, but also look what happened to Julio Cesar Chavez. Frankie Randall slipped under the radar with him and upset him. But
It happens.
But Canelo at some point is going to have to take a chance again because I think the people backing him, Turkey, so on, they're going to want a big Canelo fight. I mean, who it might be against, I just don't know at this point.
But he's at the point, Jack, where he could basically pick, and it'll do big money. The question is, when does he get out, and what is his end game? I mean, he's what, 35 now?
You know what? It's crazy that could actually happen, and no one has talked about it. Canelo has a soft fight. Mayweather beats Pacquiao.
I knew you were going there. I didn't
even know I was going there till the second because it hadn't even entered my mind. And Turkey gives Mayweather 400 million, and Canelo 250 million, and tells him to fight. But someone mentioned this to me, and this is an X factor that could affect boxing. We don't talk what's going on in the world, politics, any of that. We stick strictly to boxing. But what's going on in the Middle East, is enough money being burned by Saudi Arabia that the money won't be there to spend on boxing.
That's a fair point.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
And if that happened, wow, these guys aren't getting the big purses. But what we said early in the show, Eddie Hearn's a great promoter. He's got a big stable of fighters. Top Rank doesn't have a TV deal. They have a really good stable of fighters. PBC, they still have their fighters. I mean, Dana White, for him to get those fighters away, he's going to have to pay them a ridiculous amount of money. And I'm not convinced.
I'm sure he realizes that, Jack, and that was part of the negotiations for him to get those guys.
Yeah. Well, but is Dana White going to think, okay, I'm going to lose 300 million, but I'll make the 300 million back? And these guys have
that's a lot to ask somebody to lose. I don't know about that.
But these guys, for the most part, are going to have contracts with their promoters. They can't just go over to Dana White. You saw what happened with Oscar, with Boots. Maybe the judge will rule for Virgil Ortiz. They're going to arbitration. Maybe it'll work out for Ortiz. Or maybe
another issue with the sport. We're talking about judicial judges and not boxing judges.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have an opinion there, a solid opinion, because I don't know enough. If Virgil Ortiz can get a 10 million elsewhere, and Golden Boy wants to give him 3 million, I would think a fight with Boots Ennis would be worth more than 3 million to him. It would be
he won't fight for that money, which is a shame.
Right. But supposedly they're offering a percentage and this and that. I don't know the exact amount on that, but yeah, we'll see.
It's just a shame, that we have to talk about what network are they going to fight on, who's going to promote it, who's suing who. I mean, I know that went on in other eras too, but it occupies too much of the time and conversation now with this sport.
Yeah, but right now, if you look at Top Rank, even though they have a good stable, they don't have a TV deal. Their fighters are fighting on other promoters' platforms. They're kind of like farming them out. PBC, they're doing the Benavidez, Gilbert Ramirez, fight May 2nd. They're going to have that show. So that's good. Devin Haney's fighting Raleigh Romero, apparently. I forgot the exact date. But I think in May, that's going to be at the Barclays Center. One of the things that I've been a little too critical of with a guy like Ryan Garcia, he loses to Raleigh Romero. So I said, well, he shouldn't get this and that. Maybe we shouldn't be as critical. If a guy loses a fight, as long as he's willing to keep fighting, okay, he could slip up once in a while. I rather
Jack, if you're a
guys.
name, the rules don't apply. If you're a name, Sugar Ray Leonard didn't fight for 3 years, and he got a shot at Marvin Hagler, who was the undisputed middleweight champ.
Well, it's
Why?
entertainment, but Frank, that's the point I was trying to make here from my end, and I also tried to make the point to myself as well. It's an entertainment business. I mean, we look at things, guys should get this or that on merit. The only thing I'm going to argue about merit going forward is if it's a legitimate world titles on the line, like the kickboxer against Usyk has had one fight. He shouldn't be allowed to fight for the legitimate world heavyweight championship.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
As much as Usyk deserves a soft touch, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's say when Nagano fought Fury, there was no title on the line. Quick question to you now. What was the biggest fight in boxing history you think that no world championship is on the line?
Well, I have to think about that, Jack.
That's an interesting one. I mean, one comes to mind that I would
Which
have
one?
to say. The rematch, Ali Frazier. Their second fight. Because that was big. People, not as big as the fight of the century, but it was tremendously big and there was tremendous anticipation. You want to hear a funny story, Frank? You know about myself, and you did as well. You were at Madison Square Garden as I was for the first Ali Frazier fight. The second fight, I didn't get to see live because I decided I wasn't going to go to Madison Square Garden. I was going to watch it in the movie theater. And I remembered for the first fight,
Which is what I did.
People telling me they got their tickets the night of the fight. I didn't think to get tickets beforehand. I went movie theater to movie theater to be told it's sold out, sold out, sold out. And I wound up listening to round by round account on the radio, like at the end of each round on WINS radio, to get the result that way. Had I been a little more sophisticated, Frank, I would have slipped the guy something at the door just to get in. Okay.
Well, Jack, if you would have hung with me, here's what you would have done. Myself and a couple of buddies, because my father took me to the first fight, but he had no interest in the second fight because he was certain that Ali was going to win, and he didn't have, and we lucked out to get the tickets for the first fight. So the fact that he was certain Ali was going to win, he had no interest in it. And he didn't even have interest in it going to the closed circuit. I went with my buddies that night, and it was at Cherry Hill Arena, and the picture was really bad, Jack. The picture, I mean, you could see it, but it was black and white, and unfortunately, they both had on white trunks and what have you, and you could see the fight, but it wasn't a great picture.
You could tell the difference between Ali and Frazier, regardless.
You're right, but I'm just saying the picture it was a little bit fuzzy. So coming home, we're mad about, we saw the fight, but the picture wasn't good. Well, that morning I was getting dressed for school, and KYW radio, which is like it's 1060. It's like the equivalent of 1010 wins in New York. They announced that if you had your ticket stub from the fight last night at closed circuit, they will refund your money. What do you think we did? We went back to the arena and toured the parking lot and picked up stubs, Jack, and sent them in. And I think I got $160 back. And one of my buddies got, he lived there for hours. I think he got like $300 back and sent in all these tickets. But they announced it, and we cut school to go there to go get the stubs.
Oh, that's a great story. You posted something that got me thinking. Once in a while, you and I come across a topic that no one ever mentions. Like I had mentioned it once to you, who was the coolest fighters of all time when we talked about Smoke and Joe. You posted something that got my attention about Tex Cobb being a bouncer. Okay? Now, of
Doc Watson's pub, right.
Now, of all the fighters we can think of, who would have been the best bouncers, working the door, knowing their personality, knowing their temperament, knowing how they can talk to someone, because a good bouncer talks to the person first. He tries
he doesn't want to fight
with them. Right. He tries to reason with him, get him to, listen and turn around, leave, whatever.
Okay,
You
so you
don't,
don't want anybody that's a hothead. So you want
right, as a
somebody that's
bouncer.
pretty, well thought.
Now, was
I mean,
Ted
believe it or
Boyle a
not,
good
Cobb was that
bouncer?
guy.
Cobb had a level head as a bouncer.
Oh, Jack Cobb had a level head overall. He was very easygoing. I was with him a couple times when
What?
he could have got in a street fight with a guy, and he basically just kind of quelled it down. One night we were at a place called the Silver Saddle Saloon, and that's when. Remember when the Travolta movie came out? What was the name of that movie where he was a cowboy?
That? Oh, I don't remember that one.
Where everybody was riding the bull at that, in the clubs. Anyhow, Cobb and I go to this place. It's in the summer. It's in July. I think he just got back from fighting Michael Dokes. So he comes outside. Or he goes, let's go outside and get some air. So we go outside, and there's this red 450 SL Mercedes convertible right under the canopy, under the lights. It looked like it was just detailed. Well, he's leaning on it. He doesn't give a damn about cars. Jack, he's leaning on against it, and we're talking, and the bouncer comes out, and he goes, "Hey, get the blank off that car. That's my boss's car, and he pays me to look after it. You're going to scratch it with those jeans on." Cobb does this. He steps back. He looks at the car. He goes, "Yeah, I guess you're right." He goes, "It is a nice car if you like cars." And he just nonchalantly walked away. We went back inside.
Okay, well, yeah, okay, but I'm thinking of Cobb when he was a bouncer himself, not responding to a
But
bouncer.
no, I'm just talking about his temperament, Jack, because I wanted to hit the guy, and Randall wasn't even mad. When he bounced at Doc Watson's, I don't think he had any fights at all because nobody would mess with him. He'd sit there in the doorway and he'd practice round kicks while the place was open.
After his fight with Ken Norton, when Norton won, I think, a split decision.
Split decision,
According
right?
to Norton in his book, Cobb was furious and he wanted to fight afterwards, and Norton kind of locked himself in his hotel room and said he was scared out of his wits. It's one
That's
thing
a true story.
he could outpoint Cobb in the ring, but he doesn't want to carry him. What happens if Cobb did catch up to Norton in the lobby? Would he have started attacking him?
You know what? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. I think he would have cooled off by then. But in a street fight, Norton would have lost.
Yeah, you would figure.
But I never saw Cobb mad that much, Jack. Never saw him really lose his temper. No, no. I saw him.
One fight in Philadelphia. It was a no-name fighter. I mean, I don't remember his name. It wasn't a big fight. It was televised. The fighter kept running away from Cobb. All Cobb did was move forward, but he was unstoppable. And the fighter was stopped in the second round. He fell from exhaustion. Was just exhausted. But
was the fight at the Spectrum?
I don't think it was in the Spectrum. It was maybe the United States tournament, but not in a big fight, an undercard fight. Getting to more modern here, you look at the heavyweights. And we have Moses Atamo fighting Jermaine Franklin. Now, Moses Atamo's with Frank Warren. We talk about Eddie Hearn. We tend to forget about Frank Warren. He's got the heavyweights. He's got Fabio Wardley fighting Daniel Dubois. They're both his fighters. Tyson Fury's his fighter. Atamo's his fighter. He's kind of has a little bit of
like the Don King of this era.
Yeah, a kind of a little bit of a monopoly. But Eddie Hearn counters with a good point. Eddie Hearn says he promotes all over. Frank Warren is a great local promoter in England, but he doesn't promote as much globally as Eddie Hearn does. And, and Eddie Hearn, let's face it, it's a more interesting interview. Eddie Hearn, I think, for the most part, is honest when he's interviewed. I think he tries to be honest for the most part. But sometimes, there's obvious manipulation. Dana White had challenged Hearn to a fight. and a boxing match, and Hearn said he
How old is
accepted.
Eddie Hearn, Jack?
Oh man,
Is he
I would
60?
say no, 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 no,
No, I
no.
didn't think so.
I would say Eddie Hearn, late 40s, if I had to guess.
And
And
how
you
old is
could look
White?
that up.
White's older than that, I think.
Yeah, White, I would guess what would be about early 60s, 61, 62. I'm just guessing,
I think
Frank.
so.
I'm just guessing here. But it was funny. De La Hoya years ago challenged Eddie
He's going
Hearn
to
to a
fight Dana White.
No. De La Hoya challenged Eddie Hearn to a fight like a couple of years ago when they weren't getting along. And De La Hoya said, "Give me a couple of months to train, and I can't wait to tear Eddie Hearn apart." And Hearn said he was so flattered that the great Oscar De La Hoya would ask for a couple of months to train against them, because Hearn said he should be able to demolish me without any training.
Eddie Hearn's 46.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that
Okay.
information that we just got there. Yeah, but that would have been my guess. Yeah. And Dana
White is
Dana White's a
56.
little
Thanks,
younger.
Joe.
Dana White, yeah. I mean,
I thought White was crowding 60. But Jack, here's what we should hope for. You want to talk about a modern guy? We should hope that Moses Itama turns out to be the real deal, because he could stimulate the heavyweight division. I know he's only had 12 or 13 fights. He only had really one name opponent in Dillian White, but I think Moses Itama has a chance to be the real deal. And if you get a guy who's a heavyweight, who has fast hands, power, lets them go, and is aggressive, Jack, who does that sound like? Sounds like a young Tyson. Okay.
No, but it's what era you come up in. I agree with you. Moses Itama could be unbeaten, win the title, be unbeaten for decades. I get that. Be the dominant fighter. But you know what that's going to make him? The next Vladimir Klitschko. And I'm going to tell you why. Because by the time Itama gets on top, Fury's going to be on the way out as a serious title contender. Daniel Dubois, Fabio Wardley, whoever loses the fight isn't a serious threat. And the winner of that fight won't be a serious threat to Itama if Itama's as good as we think they are. And Usyk, we don't know how much longer he's going to stay in his prime. That Usyk is the X factor. Usyk might be able to fight really well for 2-3 more years, but you want to know something? Itama could buy this time a couple of years more.
I'm going to tell you why you're wrong about Itama and why the Klitschko comparison doesn't work. Because Klitschko was not exciting. After the Ross Purity fight, he fought like he was scared to get hit. He protected his chin. Itama is an offensive guy. I'm sure he doesn't hit as hard as Klitschko, but he's an offensive-minded guy who will let his hands go. So, and again, sort of like the Tyson menu before, where even if he's fighting guys that they're overmatched by him, he'll be exciting in exposing them and getting rid of them. Where Klitschko, if a guy wasn't that good because he fought with trepidation, a guy could go 6, 7, 8, 9 rounds with him. That will not be the case with Itama, and I think that'll be the difference.
Well, Itama, the thing is this: he needs a Larry Holmes, what Holmes was for Tyson. He needs one of these big names like Fury, Anthony Joshua to get on his ledger. Knock out one of those. He's got to
stop Fury, Jack. Stopping Anthony Joshua will not cross him over. He's got to stop Fury, just like Holmes was never stopped until Tyson.
We're going to start drawing comparisons immediately with the Franklin fight, because Franklin went the distance with Joshua in the Joshua comeback fight. Joshua won decisively, but Franklin was a pest, a real pest. He never hurt.
Itama's going to knock Franklin out in the first round, Jack.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it happened. Okay, I think he does stop Franklin. Yeah, early. That's my feeling. But if it goes to distance, the shine is off Itama. If he goes to distance.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But if he if he stops Franklin at any point, yeah, he's still the next big prospect, even if it takes him like 9, 10 rounds. Just get him out of there because people are going to compare to Joshua and say, well, at least he stopped him. People love doing these comparisons.
Absolutely, Jack. But I'll give you a fight. Speaking of the heavyweights that nobody's talking about, but I actually have some interest in it, and that is Richard Torres and Frank Sanchez.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Torres is, he's on that cusp now of being a solid ranked guy. Frank Sanchez was the flavor of the month for a couple of years until who was it that exposed him? Cabell.
Yeah.
Cabell worked him over. So he's going to want to get back. Excuse me?
Frank Sanchez has the slowest moving feet of any semi-top heavyweight.
I agree, Jack, but he's a good boxer with pretty good power and fundamentals.
Yeah.
And Torres comes at you, so Sanchez will not have trouble finding him. I think it'll make for a good fight, but I think that Torres is going to win, and that'll be his arrival.
Yeah, but it also makes you think, what's taken Torres this long? I think that fight's on the undercard of Fundora.
Of Sebastian, it is, right. That's why I brought it up.
Fight. That's a good fight. Fundora Thurman is an intriguing fight in a sense.
Well, Fundora is only intriguing because he's friggin' Magic Johnson, the way how big he is.
No, but it's intriguing in this sense. If Keith Thurman is close to being what he was, he's a serious threat to, beat Fundora, and I believe he would.
If he's the guy that beat Sean Porter and Danny Garcia, but he can't be that guy, Jack, because he wasn't that guy against Pacquiao in 2019.
Torres too, it's taken him so long. Now I would understand if he didn't have much of an
Jack, how many fights has Torres had?
He's a silver medalist from the Olympics, so he had experience by the time he turned pro. He had an.
All right, let's see. Let me see how many fights he's had as you're talking. Go ahead.
He hasn't had many. He's had what? Around 15 fights, or thereabouts.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, but
Richard Torres has had 14 fights, 12 knockouts, and he last fought November of last year, TKO first round. He fought twice in 2025. So he slowed down a little bit, but
this
14 fights, Jack.
If Torres wins this fight, he'll probably be in line, my guess is, and take a chance at the winner of Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois, something like that. To kind of get an opening,
right?
Like that. But they he fights for top ranked Torres, and he's been they moved it slow.
He turned pro in March of 2022.
Let me tell you these great prospects heavyweight. What's the name? Anderson. Oh man, Jared Anderson.
Anderson, right?
Jared Anderson was supposed to be the future of the heavyweight division.
And then he fought Piccoli. He only fought once since.
Piccoli, he fought with a lot of heart against Piccoli, but he got stopped. And then Piccoli, I was thinking this guy might be an absolute monster based on how he looked against Anderson. I thought Piccoli maybe could be the next Ibuchi. That was my thought, perhaps. And then he gets stopped, by Joseph Parker. And I know we heard he didn't have time to prepare, but then he lost the fight after that. So,
Joe, I knew you're right about Fundora. Right, you say there's a chink, but he did get hit with a lottery shot.
The only time. Yeah,
and he was killing. He was killing Mendoza until that shot.
Joe makes a good point, though. That's a red flag. We don't have enough evidence that Fundora can't take a good punch. But that one time he got stopped, he's gotten hit big shots in other fights that didn't stack him or hurt him.
And I'm not confident Thurman mixes it up or throws hard enough to land that shot.
Tim Tszyu in 2 fights landed his share punches on Fundora's chin. It didn't move Fundora, really.
Yep.
But that one shot where he got stopped by Mendoza, It makes you think.
And
if
that
it
was a
happened
shot.
once, if it
Yes.
happened once, could it happen again? And sometimes
I mean, it could always happen again, but I don't think Thurman's the guy to do it. I think Thurman is going to look old in this fight. I think he's going to be troubled by the style. Fundora has a pretty good jab. He throws nice uppercuts. I think he's going to beat Keith Thurman up,
well,
and that's not going to bother me.
Thurman is a businessman. He's smart. He knows he's getting a good payday. He knows if he wins the fight, how he could manipulate his next fight into making good money. I think that's the way Thurman's thinking. I think Fundora is fighting more for the glory than it's Thurman. I don't think Thurman's fighting for the glory. I think this is a business proposition to Thurman.
I agree. That's why we need Fundora to beat him up.
Yeah, and you look at Tim Tszyu, I mentioned a moment ago. He loses what, 3 fights, and now they're talking about him being in a big fight against maybe Errol Spence. And
But that's a good fight for him, Jack, because he's fighting another guy that's damaged. So that's a winnable fight for him.
Yeah, but at least with Errol Spence, we can give Spence a pass losing to Crawford the way he did and being inactive, because before that, Spence arguably forged a Hall of Fame career. He really paid his dues.
But he's not the guy now. He can't be that guy now, Jack. He hasn't, it's 3 years. He took such a shellacking, and then he sits on the, on the shelf for 3 years. Who knows where his head's at and where his heart will be if he gets in a tough battle the next time he's out there. You just don't know. So but he's not that guy.
Yeah. In the couple of minutes we have left, we should do this earlier. I love linking fighters to maybe football teams or football players. I mean, who would we compare Errol Spence to now? I think it would be a veteran player, who's about 35, 36 years old. They signed him on a 1-year deal. Who would we compare to who?
Nick Foles is Thurman. I mean, is Spence.
Okay, so Tama would be your number 1 overall choice in the draft. If we were drafting non-champions, this is great. Everyone who's a non-world champion, and we have a draft, Tama would be the first overall draft choice. You'd say that. Like
heavyweight, yes.
Maybe it's easier teams. Like, you were a little hard on your Miami Dolphins in the past show. I asked you to compare him to a fighter. You said Joe Hip. That's getting a little.
But that was a joke, Jack. I was joking there.
Dolphins, maybe they're like Tex Cobb being a threat in the heavyweight division.
A little prettier version of Tex Cobb. The Dolphins are a team that would be a fighter that teases you, gives you a little hope, but every time the money's on the table, they find a way to lose. And
I got one for you.
So who would that be?
Wait. Say that again. You're asking me?
Yes. Who would that be then? They tease you. You think they're good. They have some ability. They show signs of looking really good, but every time they step up and play a winning team, they get beat.
I don't know. I was thinking in terms of other names. I'm getting ahead. I can't answer that question. I don't know. Canelo. Is he the Philadelphia Eagles or is Mayweather the Philadelphia Eagles? Where you always say they're going to win it. You just know it. Like, you're so sure Mayweather's going to get a decision no matter what against Pacquiao. Like, you feel the Eagles or Ohio State is going to get through.
The Eagles are Mayweather only what Mayweather would have been if he would have taken some risk. A lot of big wins, but some losses.
Who is Canelo, you would say? That's a good... Is he the Buffalo Bills?
Jack, that's funny you said that. And it's not fair because he's won championships and the Bills haven't.
Well, everyone wins championships.
But I did think of the Bills.
To be the absolute
I did think of the Bills.
Fighter, pound for pound. Yeah, funny. Okay, we got to explore this another time. It could be, sometimes fun doing a little bit the comparisons, Frank. We're probably going to have more guests when we go forward. We had some, we got away from it. we're going to be coming on with certain other guests in the future. Okay, had a real nice time talking boxing, 2 old-time boxing
All right.
guys.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.